and it's about to tick over to 8 o'clock. There's been that much sport happening, not just on a local level, but right around the world. We're going to kick off SportsFeva right away. Peter Swampy Marsh from Quest Newspapers. He's joined me in the studio, as he does every Thursday morning. Good morning to you, Swamp.
Good morning, Matty. And yeah, massive week of sport, and both locally and abroad. Of course, the huge news yesterday, and we'll kick it off. And if you haven't heard of Black Caviar, that's it. She's done. No
She's
more.
She's retired,
25.
Yeah. So that's huge news. Earlier in the week, a great time for golfing fans. And we'll talk about both Black Caviar and the Masters a little bit later in the show. But the monkey's off our back. Scotty, what a hero.
And a green jacket, sitting very snugly on it now.
What a great day. I cried, Swamp. It was an emotional moment. We've been waiting a long time for it.
Look, I almost did, but I had thought about it a couple of times during the week, and the goosebumps have come back. It's a wonderful moment in Australian sport.
It was certainly magical. But on a local level, plenty to get through this morning. Dolphins, after when we're about to talk to Rupert McCall about it, fair to say an ordinary performance last Sunday. They do it again this Sunday at Dolphin Oval against, I guess, in a local derby of sorts versus Sunny Coast Seagulls. We'll talk to Rupert about that. A good friend of the show, Jacinta Mesa, the Firebirds. Now, that's a team that's had a great start to the season.
Wonderful start to the season. Look, we don't want to claim too much of it, but there was a bit of sports fever bump that was thrown out there. We don't control it. It lands where it wants, but fair to say it perhaps landed with the Firebirds after we had Jacinta on. A wonderful start to the season for her.
They're going really well, and one of our new, I guess, sporting entities in the Moreton Bay region we're talking to. We've spoke to Terry Kerrigan plenty of times before on the show, but behind this, and we've spoken about the Moreton Bay United Jets, Swamp, and they're doing some good things as well.
Yeah, of course, the new competition this season kicking off, backed by the FFA, the National Premier League. The Jets are our local team in that competition. It's pitched to be what the Queensland Cup and New South Wales Cup are to rugby league. The NPL is supposed to be that to the A-League, so it's in its very early stages, but the Jets doing some good things.
Good on the Jets. We'll talk to Terry later in the hour. Time now for a song. We'll be back to talk to Rupert McCall. Bit of Queen to kick off Sports Fever this morning. We will rock you. Joining us on the line now is our good friend. He's the number one ticket holder for the Redcliffe Dolphins. Good morning to Rupert McCall.
Good morning, Matt. Good morning, Swampy.
Now, Rupert, we spoke out last week. We're very excited. We're heading to Dolphin Oval. It was Close the Gap round. We had the fantastic jerseys. It was a TV game. Look, everything went well on the day except for the result in the Queensland Cup. We got dusted.
We did. Good lesson learnt there. Maybe with all the distractions and the build-up and the hype and, obviously being a special day. And you wouldn't take anything away from that because it was a wonderful concept, but you've still got to put it together in the 80 minutes when that whistle blows, and the Dolphins are just letting themselves down a little bit at the moment in that respect. So yeah, it was disappointing not to get the win at the end of that game, but hopefully we will have learned a lesson from that.
Full credit to the Cutters, Rupert. They have some very big boys who have a wonderful turn of foot and turned up to play, and none bigger than Jason Taumalolo, who was just a handful for the Finns to contain all day.
Yeah, Taumalolo, Faialoa, they've got NRL talent amongst their ranks, as do we. So, there's going to be not too many easy games, if any, in season 2013. And, they were a handful. They turned up to play, but most teams will against Redcliffe. We have to realise that, being, I guess, the successful side that we have been over the last couple of decades, that the dolphin on the chest also comes with a target. And just about every team, they'll get themselves up to play their best against Redcliffe, and so we need to be ready for that.
That's right, whether the benchmark side. So if we're off at all like we were, I guess, the last couple of weeks, we're ripe for the picking. But looking forward to this game. It's against, I guess, one of our local rivals in the Sunny Coast Eagles, and a relatively new team who have surprised a few. They knocked off the Devils on their home turf at Bishop Park a couple of weeks ago. They're a team that compete for, I guess, territory rights against the Dolphins. So they're one of these teams that will really aim up against the Dolphins on Sunday.
Oh, they will. They knocked us off last year up the coast. I was at that game, and they'll be disappointed with their performance against the Pride at home last weekend. So both teams are coming off disappointment, so both teams really keen to win. Our little brothers up there in the Sunshine Coast, making the trip to Redcliffe. Listen, there's no need to panic. I think there might be a few guys coming back into our forward pack this week, and Joey Bond may not play, I believe. So, a few personnel changes, whatever the case, on game day, I'm sure the focus will be on playing to our potential, and if we do that, we should win the game.
We saw, just on that point, Rupert, what happens when the Finns do play to their potential. Of course, in that demolition of Wynnum in round one, it was a very impressive game. Of course, you just about, if you were picking a perfect side of all the players that were available, that would be the side you'd pick. But one area that's it's missing a bit through injury at the moment is the second row. We had that wonderful combination of Troy Geese, Sarafu Fadiaki and Jake Marchetto, who brought so much energy and intensity into that role in rounds 1 and 2, but been missing the last couple of weeks with GC out with a hand injury and Marchetto out last week. Hopefully we can see a few of them back this week against the Sunny Coast.
Yeah, I suppose there's a few days between now and Sunday, Swampy, and the fitness of those players will be monitored. Jake's got the rib cartilage, which is always a bit dodgy. You don't want to go in 95% with bad ribs. I suppose it's a case of watch this space. But whoever puts on the jersey will do the job, and we would love to see those players back. Maybe even Nick Sliney, but we can't be confused or thinking that that hinges on that. So the players that we have and the depth that we have at the club needs to be able to step up to the mark on any given day.
Speaking of players doing the job, there's none that's getting it done better at the moment than the man with the captain's armband, Petro Sivanasiva. I mean, it probably speaks volumes that what you expect from Petro, and he's blowing those expectations out of the water. He was enormous again on Sunday, just about played the Dolphins back into the game off his own back, and I believe picked up his third straight Man of the Match award. He's just doing wonderful things at the moment.
He is leading by example, big buller, and isn't it great to see the offload back in his game? I think that was sort of benched for many seasons at the Broncos in the aid of getting the jobs that go forward. But he's doing that job as well as creating opportunities. His humility will be very, very important at a time like this. His sense of composure and no panic. I mean, I'm sure he'll have a word with the boys, before the game on Sunday, and keep it simple. Let's do the hard work. Let's roll the sleeves up and then get us going forward. Follow me, so to speak, and then that will make it a lot easier for Luke Capewell and Zach Strasser to do their job, and that's probably an area where we do need to improve.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing about Petro, I guess it's an on the field action, I guess, but it's after the game. We spoke about it, how we grew up, getting autographs from Arthur and Bunny and Chicken Legs and Turtle and those type, but it's great to see after the game the kids 10, 20 deep waiting for an autograph from Big Petro, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's what he brings back to the table as well. I mean, whether it's at home or away, that the game is in good shape when Petro Sivanasiva is on the field and certainly off the field as well. He's a gentleman. I'm reading his book at the moment, just reminiscing some of those early days on the peninsula. Growing up as he did. Watching his father play down at Redcliffe Rugby Union, and then coming across to the Dolphins and getting his opportunity with the Broncos, and just rising through the grades and him learning off the senior players, the likes of getting advice from Andrew G and Peter Ryan and some of the big whoppers, Brad Thorne, etc. And now he's returning the favour at Redcliffe to the young players coming through the ranks. It's very inspiring.
It is very inspiring. We're very proud of him. Before we let you go, Rupert, just a quick comment. Huge news, I guess, in the racing world. We know you were one of our many fans. You went to Royal Ascot to see her in action. The mighty mare, Black Caviar, retiring 25 from 25.
Yeah, she's done enough, I think. She's beaten anything and everything that, come up against her in the sprinting world. I'm a bit, we're all a bit sad. There's those bittersweet emotions to think that, we're never going to see her race again. But I think that was the right decision. It ensures her immortality, 25 from 25, the likes of which we will never see again, and it just sends a little bit of a shiver galloping down my back just thinking about that. And I'm sure that when the Winter Racing Carnival comes around, well, there'll be no Black Caviar on the track, but Peter Moody will be there, and we should be paying tribute to him for a wonderful chapter of racing. And what a great thrill it has been to have seen her race over the years. I was lucky enough to see her at Doomben and then at Royal Ascot, and it was absolutely epic.
It's left us with so many great memories. Rupert, we know you're a busy man. We'll let you go. Thanks for chatting to us about some of the greats, SportsFeva and Black Caviar this morning.
Thanks, guys. I'll see you Dolphin Oval on Sunday, and I just want to send my condolences out there to the family of Ross Livermore and pay tribute to Ross as a good and great man for Queensland Rugby League.
Yep, sentiments here as well. A great man for Queensland Rugby League, and may he rest in peace. Thanks very much, Rupert.
See you, boys.
Cheers, Rupert. Rupert McCall there, Swamp, and like we said, Black Caviar all over Red Rover, 25 from 25, and look, bittersweet as Rupert said, but I think another emotion that I felt is relief, because I was there was going to be the day that look, she was better than these horses, but horse racing, things can go wrong, and look, if she'd lost, she just went into that, as silly as it seems, into that other pile of horses that had done some remarkable things, but there's only one other horse that raced in Hungary in the 1800s that has remained undefeated after so many starts. So look, she's there on her own now. There's a special place in history. She broke Australian Group 1 records, all types of records. She's there on her own, and that can't be taken away from her now.
It's always, I think, no matter what sport it is anywhere, better to go out on top, as they say. The legend will live on now that she is undefeated. Matty, you're a man who's much more into the horse racing than myself. And I suppose the thing for me is that she transcended the sport of horse racing itself. She's gone into Australia, much like the Far Laps and the Maccabi Divas have. Everyone knows who Black Caviar is, regardless of if you followed horse racing. Is that probably another true marker of just how great she was?
Oh, absolutely, Swamp, and what she's done for the racing industry is just unbelievable. The people that have wanted to talk to me about, I've grown up racing all my life, and you talk to non-racing people once a year, Melbourne Cup time, but now they just want to talk about Black Caviar all the time, and the crowds. I remember when Rupert spoke about the day she come to Doomben, there were people lining up at Doomben at 9 o'clock in the morning. That's, I've been going to the race for 30 years and never seen anything like it, and it just brought people together, hard and tried racing people and new people to the sport, and it's just something I'd never thought I'd see in my lifetime, and I think it's just a perfect way to go out.
Is the legend and what we've seen now, is it almost hard to appreciate so close to what's happening? Is it something that in 10, 15 years' time we're going to look back and go, whoa? I mean, even with the platitudes that are coming our way.
Yeah, I think the legend will grow as time goes on, and people will just honestly just shake their head at what a freak she was. But look, it's easy to forget how good she was until she's gone. But she is one of those. I think people kind of, when she got to around 13, 14 wins a race, people started to sense, well, we're experiencing something we're never going to ever experience again. So fantastic, and look, we can, as Queenslanders, we can claim Peter Moody, a proud Queenslander, the trainer. He's done a great job. Luke Nolan spent a lot of his early years in Queensland as well, so a real Queensland connection to Black Caviar, and yeah.
Are you digging behind the couch cushions for some spare change to pull together for, of course, the next chapter, which will be the progeny? And they're talking about a lot of different combinations there, but the talk this morning was that they don't even want to sell. They want to keep it, and in a couple of years' time we may have the next caviar.
Yeah, well, that'll be the interesting thing, because obviously she's still worth so much as a broodmare. And a lot of talk that she would go to Frankel, who, of course, was UK's great champion that's recently retired as well. That's not going to happen in this first season. They're going to go to a local side. Interesting, as a rule, sometimes some really good race mares that have got great track performances haven't converted to great broodmares. There's no rules in that way, so it'll be interesting to see how the progeny do go. But look, there'll be certainly plenty of interest in those first couple of foals anyway, after her half-brother sold for $5 million last week, so fantastic.
It's a lot of coin.
It is. And a nice touch with Caviar's retirement. Today is the 4th anniversary of her first ever start. So 4 years ago today was her first ever start. So.
And she is, I believe, is it in Melbourne or Sydney? She's getting a lap.
Melbourne this Saturday. She's going to lap around Caulfield, which is a great touch, and they'll get a biggest, without her even racing, they'll get a massive crowd for everyone to say one last goodbye. A shame. Look, Brisbane was very much on the schedule for her to come, which could have easily been her last race start. They'd actually changed the venue from Doomben to Eagle Farm to cater for a bigger crowd. Unfortunately, she won't get here, but again, that sense of relief that she can't lose that record now. So good news all round. Swampy, great story. Time now for a song. We're back to talk some netball. It's 19 minutes past 8 here on 101.5. You listen to SportsFeva with Matthew and Peter Swampy Marsh. Time now to talk to a real good friend of the show, Swampy. We're talking about Jacinta Messer from the Queensland Firebirds. She joins us on the line. Good morning, Jacinta.
Hi guys, how you going?
We're really good here this morning, Jacinta, but not as good as the Firebirds. 4 from 4 to start the season. What a way to kick things off in 2013.
Yeah, we are really stoked. 4 from 4, particularly when 3 of those were on the road. So the term "Halyers picked in mud" really comes to mind.
No, and absolutely. And you talk about those road victories, and they weren't easy road victories. Easily two over the ditch in New Zealand, and then I guess we could term it the State of Origin battle against the Swifts down in New South Wales, and that was one we always like to win, isn't it? Regardless of how the season goes, if we can get a couple of victories over the Swifts, it's always a good year.
Absolutely, that Sydney game wasn't easy at all. I mean, State of Origin, I think that's as good as it really gets for us. But even travelling to New Zealand, I mean, that crowd over there, they're loud and they're hostile. So to get those wins up there is pretty great as well.
You managed to ruffle a few Kiwi feathers over there, if you'll excuse the pun. A few of you being labelled as thugs. So surely it's a mark that you've done the job.
Yeah, look, I think I kind of think the whole thing was thrown out of proportion. I think they should have given it an Academy Award rather than a penalty. I was pretty surprised by the whole thing. And I think at the end of the day, as athletes, we sort of want it to be tough, and I take a bit of a hard-nosed approach. If you're not tough enough, then get off the court. So.
No, I totally agree with it. That's a great attitude to have, and you'd have to be happy with your own form as well. Just you come off the bench in the third quarter the other night and really shut down Emmerette Wild. You'd be wrapped with your own form.
Oh, look, I'm happy. I think I'm training well and to get out there, and I've played against Damien a bit before, so that running game sort of really suits how I play. Yeah, absolutely, really happy, and I think I was partnering well with Garcia in there, which is always a good thing as well.
Now, another couple of home games, probably welcome home games, coming up after the bye. Jacinta, I imagine everyone must be pretty happy to have a bit of a friendly crowd in Brisbane for the next couple of games.
Yeah, well, like I said, we've got the bye this weekend, and then we play against Huntington. It's very pretty in itself, and hopefully that home crowd will get us a good
The bye comes at a bit of an interesting time. Some coaches love it, some players love it, and some hate it on the other side. Is it almost a case where you probably prefer to be on the court to keep a bit of momentum rolling?
I think it will vary. It's a really good time. Like you said, down for 3 weeks. So to have a bit of a light week of training and then have that whole weekend, I know the girls are really looking forward to a little bit of R&R.
Yeah, interesting times ahead. Well, good luck. I've got no doubt you can knock over the bye this weekend anyways. But and we look forward to seeing you in action versus the Thunderbirds in a couple of weeks, 28th of April, that game. Tickets still available from Ticket Tech, that one being held at the Brisbane Convention and Exhibition Centre. Jacinta Messer, we always appreciate your time. We'll have you on in a couple of weeks again to follow the progress, but keep up the great work.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Jacinta.
Cheers, Jacinta.
Swampy, great form, though, Firebirds at the moment, playing a really good brand of netball.
And look, it's they're edging ever closer to. I think no team's won the competition twice yet, and it's a big challenge to get there. It's so even the comp. No team's even made the finals after winning the grand final the previous year. So Firebirds have started very well. A lot of changes in that side, but great to see them doing well, and great to see our local link to the team there just into playing so well as well.
Absolutely. Time now for a song. We'll be back with more sport. The Rolling Stones. You can't always get what you want, and for a long time, Swamp, Aussies, we couldn't get a US Masters, but it's all over. We've won one. You little beauty.
It was a wonderful moment in Australian sport, Matty, and it's a time that I'm sure I'll be telling my kids, my grandkids about. That I was there. I watched. I listened to Adam Scott win Australia's first ever US Masters, and it was a wonderful occasion.
You watched it on sports, you didn't actually.
No.
Take us through that, Swamp.
Well, I watched it across all the weekend. I watched the drama unfold, and I got up bright and early on a Monday morning, and I watched Day and Scott both tee off, and I watched it through till about 7:30, and sometimes a little thing called work gets in the way, unfortunately. So with about, I think they were coming up with about their last 3 holes, Matty. So I had to make the decision of when I was going to miss a little bit of what was going on. I left for work with Jason Day in second spot, and Cabrera looking like he had it all sewn up with 2 shots lead, and I got to work, and all of a sudden Jason Day was on -9 and had the Masters in his one hand on the jacket. So it was
just on Jason Day there. Fair enough to say, if anyone but Adam Scott or another Aussie hadn't won the Masters, it would have been, oh no,
it was nominal lap again.
It was us. We had the Masters in our grasp, and lost it.
That's what Augusta does, though. That's why the tournament is so special. That's why the course is so special. You can never ever count anyone out until they're standing on that 18th tee and the ball's dropped into the 18th cup. It does things, that pressure. No one was cheering against it. Everyone was willing him on and wanted him to do it. And that pressure happens. They're not, and the last holes. Look, they're not the toughest on the course by any means. They rank probably somewhere to middling. There's not a lot that you've got to deal with, other than some difficult putts. The greens are always a challenge, and the tee shot on 18, you've got to steer a little bit out of trouble. But it's not a great deal for these guys. But look, it happens. He did it the day before. That probably just jumped into his mind as much as you say wouldn't. The fact that, oh God, I had 2 bogeys here yesterday. It does funny things. But look, he's only 25. Playing exceptional golf. He just has to keep at it, Day. It'll come his way eventually.
Yeah, well, look, he only has to look at Adam Scott, who for so long has promised so much, and
only 3-4 years ago people were saying he's done.
He's finished. Yep, we'd kind of put the line through him, hadn't we? So a great comeback from Scotty, and there'd been so much said about his putting game over that time where he's changed to the broomstick putter, and didn't he hit some big putts?
And that's for me what was so pleasing about this win. He didn't do it through exceptional approach shots or booming it long off the tee, which Cabrera took wonderful advantage of. He's a very big hitter for a man of his age, and took wonderful advantage of that. But for Scotty, who's been pillory for so long in his career, for having the yips with his putting, has gone through so much, and talked reams and reams of golf magazines and golf columns about how we never had the ability to putt and that killer instinct to step up to a putt and just drain it and knock people out. He did it. He'd never birdied 18 in all, I think, his 11 previous visits to the Masters. That's a lot of visits to that hole. Had never birdied it, and I think it was about 17 feet that he had for the birdie to really put that pressure on Cabrera on the first one, and then again, of course, in the playoff on 10, Canning another long one.
Mentally, how tough would it have been for Adam Scott? He sinks that birdie putt on the 18th. He goes one in front. He probably thinks, I'm about to win the Masters, and then Cabrera does some great shots. He birdies as well. It's all locked up. He's kind of had to win the Masters twice.
He did, and look, as much as you'd be trying to pull yourself back, that thought would come into your mind. Hang on a second, I may have just won the Masters here, and that he would have been doing everything in his mind to try and keep that down. Cabrera was playing great golf, but all credit to the Argentinian to make that approach he did on 18 was just clutch. If he doesn't stump that, he's all of a sudden it's on a putt and it's just about all over. But to hit the shot that he did was as good as Adam Scott's putt. That was amazing. So you're dead right, mate. He would have had to really try and calm himself down. He would have thought that he'd won it, regardless of what he said, but had to do it twice and prevailed in the end in rain, in near darkness. There was talk that if it didn't end on the 10th hole, they were probably going to have to come back the next day. Surely as a nation we couldn't have taken that.
No, my nerves wouldn't have handled that swamp. It was amazing, and the playoff itself was amazing. That both players shots they were side by side up. Every shot within couple of metres of each other right till those final ones. It's just unbelievable. Great theatre, great drama.
I think the best thing is that neither of those players lost the Masters. None of them won. Adam Scott won it. Cabrera's chip on the first playoff burnt the right edge of the cup. He chips in, all of a sudden Adam Scott's got a massive burden on him. And Cabrera's putt on the 10th, runs around the right edge of the cup and sits on the back. Golf is a game of millimetres, and he only needed one more millimetre to the left. One half tick less of speed, and that ball drops in the cup, and all of a sudden Adam's got 14 feet for birdie to tie and push it, and that's a massively different equation than a chance and a 14-foot chance if he sinks it to win. So it's playoffs are wonderful things, especially wonderful when they go toe to toe like that. It's great for an Australian to finally win the Masters, and especially Adam Scott, who grew up idolising Greg Norman, the man who. So many people talk about that time when he lost it to Nick Faldo. It's great to see someone, and wonderful words from the Shark as well in the wash-up as well.
The Shark was so happy for Adam Scott, wasn't he? And they are great mates, and Adam Scott spoke so much about the Shark, and I think Adam Scott was great of our vintage, similar ages, growing up, watching so many Masters and so many ending in disappointment. Not only the ones we led, there's the ones we've run second in, but there's been times where we've led first round and we go in thinking this is our year, and players drop right out. So it's always been something with great hope that ends in such disappointment, but. What a year. And
just on that, what a year indeed. There was so much talk earlier about how it was a bit terrible that we only had 4 Australians there this year. A lot of the regular names we'd see unfortunately not getting through, but Adam Scott won, Jason Day 3rd, Mark Leishman I think 6th, and Johnny Sendon 35th. So
and Sendo loomed up in the 3rd round too. He was right there, and we forget about Leishman, who was right in contention still on that last day, had led early as well. So a fantastic tournament from Leishman.
And fantastic tournament all around for Australia, to have 4 players. If we're only talking about those 4 players, to have them all finish so well is great. And look, a very busy couple of 12 months for Adam Scott. You'd imagine already talks coming from all over the world of what he wants to play. There is hope that Australia is going to be able to host the World Cup later this year at one of the Sandbelt courses in Melbourne. Of course, if that happens, the fields for the PGA, the Australian Open, the Australian Masters are just going to be big, and that'll be a big help in trying to get Scotty back to play some courses over our summer of golf.
Yeah, it'd be great to see. Interesting to see how Scotty's career goes from there. We're honestly hoping that this is kind of the watershed moment. He goes on to win a couple of more majors, but we have seen obviously the key example is Ian Baker Finch. Sometimes players can just lose that killer instinct once they get something they've strived so hard for and they get it. They just, through no fault of their own, that killer punch just leaves them. But I don't think it'll happen with Scotty, but we have seen it happen. And
I think that's because he's not really had that killer punch in his game for quite a while, and people talked that it was what he's lacked. He didn't have that fire by all reports, he's a genuinely nice guy on and off the course. He's talk he was too nice to win a major. If he's discovered that and perhaps found a little bit of a key that works for him, I can't see why he want to be throwing any of that away to go on to more success. Of course, not forget he's got to defend his title at the Australian Masters as well, the winner there last year. So hopefully he does come back to add on the gold jacket to his collection.
Green and gold jackets, very, very nice.
Very
collection. And finally, just on the Masters, one of the real spine-tickling moments as a Queenslander was a couple of guys on the court. You heard it a couple of times, but particularly when he was coming off to play that first playoff hole on 18, the mighty Queenslander call. That was so exciting as a Queenslander. Billy popped up everywhere, but no, it was fantastic, wasn't it, Swamp? And even Scotty's come on Aussie call when he sunk that big putt. Some very great moments as Queenslanders and Australians.
And before we go, I can't let it slip. I don't think you've got the audio queued up, but
we lost it, Swamp, unfortunately.
Oh, it's funny how that happens.
But you did. Well done to you. You said best placed Aussie Adam Scott.
I did, and I tell you what, Tiger wasn't far away after his one-shot debacle, or his drop debacle and hitting the pin on 15. There's 3 shots, and look, if he's even close to a sniff with that last day, and he wasn't that far behind anyway. It would have been very interesting to see where Tiger finished had he not had to take those penalty shots. But that's golf, unfortunately. As he said in that post-round interview after the third round, 2 feet shorter, and he was with a tap-in eagle, and all of a sudden everyone's talking about Tiger having a comeback major. But 2 feet too long, hits the pin, penalty shot, viewer drama, should have been disqualified perhaps, and no Masters for Tiger.
No, that's it. What a great tournament. We could talk about it all day, literally, Swampy, because it was a great moment in Australian sport. That is Steve Winwood, Higher Love. It's 11-9 here on 101.5. Now, Swamp, we were going to have Terry Kirkham on from the Moreton Bay United Jets. We're going to hold Terry over till next week, save the goal till next week, but like we've said, Moreton Bay Jets doing some really good things.
Yeah, they're 3-1 to start their season, and a rain-out started 3-0 actually, at a very, very good win over the Sunshine Coast Fire, who were last year's QSL, which was sort of the previous competition before the NPL kicked off. Champions, well-established team, and the Jets went up there and did the business, got them 2-1, backed it up with a 3-0 win over the Northern Fury at home. Unfortunately, it went down to Redlands, who are again one of those teams that have been around for a very long time, got an established player base, but 3-1 to start the season for a team that plenty who looked over this NPL and looked at what teams are coming in, thought the Jets were going to struggle. They had come together really as a team in October, had not seen a lot of each other at all, and Terry Kirkham's done a wonderful job in the pre-season of pulling these guys together to form a cohesive unit, and to go 3-1 to start the season. It's and no draws in there either, which is the other. Of course, you can't count that out when you're talking about soccer. 3 full points from their opening fixtures is a very good place to be in. So, they've shown that when they hit their straps, the Jets, they can really beat anyone. But it's getting them up and getting them firing every week that'll be the challenge now. They've got some wonderful experienced players. I suppose really being the bookends, they've got Carl Dodd, who's played for the Queensland Roar, has played overseas in Hong Kong, down the back there marshalling the troops, and of course Royce Brownlee up the front, again played with the Queensland Roar, who's really who they're funneling a lot of their attack through. But there's a lot of these emerging young players coming through the midfield who are doing very well for the Jets at the moment, and the more that they play, the better they're going to get. So really looking forward to having a chat to Terry to see how he's going to see the rest of the season. But good things for the Jets to start the year.
No, fantastic. He's a really good coach too, Terry. We've seen him in his previous roles. Now, Swamp, last day of the regular season. We're huge NBA fans here. Last day of the regular season today. My Lakers are just on the cusp. It could go all pear-shaped. We've got to win today or hope for a result.
Over Houston?
Over Houston today, yes. So hopefully we can clinch that 8th spot, and we'll 8th or 7th depending on the win. So, but you're Miami High Flyers, top of the Eastern Conference, all things looking good there. But like we've said previously, US sports, their final series it goes on. Yeah. It seems like forever, but they do it so well. They milk every little bit of it they can. I think it's now 7-match series we go into throughout the finals. So, to be the champ, you've got to win a few games yet.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, like we see in the regular season, I mean, looking at Miami's win-loss there's 65 wins, 16 losses. So it's an extraordinary amount of games they play just in the regular season. Of course, basketball being a little different, only playing sort of 40-odd minutes per night, but incredible amount of trouble they go through, and especially in those 7-game series. They're 2 nights in one, and all of a sudden they could be across the country for another one. So I personally love the way they do it. It wouldn't work for every sport, but it's a wonderful ride when you go on these final series, and you can never say that the best team didn't come out on top. Sport's a funny thing, and results crop up here or there where favourites fall over, but a favourite has a bad game in a 7-match series, there's every likelihood they could go on to clinch it 4-1 and they're off. So it's I love the playoff series that they do. On your Lakers, though, a fairly big out, you'd say, over the weekend.
Yeah.
Reasonable. Some young buck called Kobe Bryant
young
missing.
buck, Kobe Bryant's gone down with an Achilles, which looked not ideal for him.
The
Mamba, he was in great form as well. Arguably career best form in some of the he played. But look, still on paper, an impressive lineup. The Lakers have Dwight Howard, Pau Gasol, of course, 2 of the best big men in NBA. Meta World Peace, of course, one of the most talented defenders, if not one of the most. I guess he's the modern day Dennis Rodman, for the lack of a better description.
On and off the field.
On and off the court, of course. And then we've got Steve Nash to come back into that lineup as well. Of course, a 2-time MVP, and Antoine Jameson, of course, off the bench, who have former All-Star as well. So the quality of players still there, and as I've said to you off air, Swamp, without Kobe, they're playing a very different style of basketball, much more suited to the 2 big guys. So it will be interesting because for other teams to play against the Lakers now with 2 great defenders like Gasol and Howard protecting that ring, they've got to change things up as well.
As a Lakers fan and a follower, Matty, what do you do if the Lakers make it here and make a bit of a run through the playoffs, playing that brand of basketball, like you said, that frees up some of those big men a little bit more, allows Howard to probably work how fans expected him to when he came to the Lakers this season? All of a sudden, Kobe comes back. How does that fit in there if all of a sudden Howard's getting a few more minutes, probably a bit of a happier play? There's some talk about highly happy there.
That's been the question all year, Swamp, about how they'd gel. And look, there's some games where they gelled really well together, and you thought, well, this is, and it just hasn't gone through all year. But look, from a Lakers point of view, injury-wise, there's just been so many. Howard missed extended periods, Gasol's missed extended periods, Nash has missed extended periods. So a team that was thrown together late as a unit to start with just haven't had that time to mesh. I think next year, if they can keep that core group together, you'll see a different side, and they'll probably adapt. And of course 3 coaches throughout the year as well, which is something not ideal. But look, certainly more teams than the Lakers and the Heat in this playoff series. Heat still hot favourites, but even in that Eastern Conference, look, New York Knicks have been playing a fantastic brand of basketball.
And the important thing is that they know how to beat the Heat. It's something that a lot of teams can't win out. I don't think we managed to get a regular season win over them, to be honest. If not, it's only one. They know how to get under the Heat players' skin and eke out a win. So I think they're sitting second at the moment, but if New York were sitting 8th, as a Heat fan, I'd be very worried if we were going up against them, just because they seem to have got it worked out.
Yeah, absolutely. Chicago Bulls, who don't look like they'll get Derrick Rose back, and hats off to them, a fantastic season without their best player all year. They've played some good, of course, ended Miami's streak as well, so they've proven they can beat the Heat. And, of course, a team you can never count off during the playoffs, the Boston Celtics, of course, and, without bringing, what's happened off the court there, there's a real sense of, rallying around Boston at the moment as well. They're one of the great teams in in basketball history. They become a different, entity during playoff time.
They were, and really had almost a similar season last year, ups and downs, and not really that flash playoffs. And I've said this a couple of times during the year, they were probably one of the greatest individual games of basketball ever played by LeBron James. You take that away, and Boston were through. They were through to face Oklahoma in the final.
It was a 7-match series. It went all the way down the line.
LeBron played one of the best games you'll ever see LeBron play when he had to, with the series on the line. It was just an absolutely dominant performance that the likes of had not been seen for a lot of years. And LeBron can't play like that, but he hadn't turned up. Kevin Garnett was a monster in that series, and look, once they get there, they know how to win the Celtics, and you'll never can off a team that's got the likes of Garnett, Pierce, and Rondo. When they click, they click.
Rondo's still out for the Celtics, though, of course. So he is a big out. So will be interesting to see how they go. To the Western Conference now, of course, OKC, the team that had the breakout year last year, when all the Western Conference champions. When you've got a combination of Durant and Westbrook, one of the best combos in basketball, very hard to beat. The team on the way up have lost Harden from the team last year, who just to bring someone like that off the bench was enormous. But look, they've proved this year that they're a force to be reckoned with. San Antonio, look, an older team, Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, and of course the news yesterday that they've signed Tracy McGrady for the playoffs. So a real blast from the past. Yeah, so a real, I guess, all-star team of yesteryear going through, and look, they're a team to be reckoned with. And I think the real forgotten team is Denver, who had the best home record of any team, only losing 3 games all year at home, and under home court advantage as number 3 seed. Look, they'll go deep into these playoffs as well. Yeah,
that was called the other streak there for a little while. Of course, behind Miami's incredible. I think Denver got up to, was it 16 or 17 wins in a row. It was a wonderful streak, and of course all the attention being in Miami, I think Denver were quite happy just to fly under the radar there. So just looking there, 37-3 as a home record, that's enormous, and home court advantage is so important, especially when you're sitting where they are as well. The Clippers floating around there as well, and a big shout out to good friend of the show, Mike Whiting, his Golden State Warriors sitting in the bottom half of that 8 there in the Western Conference as well. So interesting to see it play out. It's going to be interesting about Oklahoma this year, Matty, is James Harden had been such an X factor off the bench for them last year for so long, and he didn't rock up in that final series against Miami. He was really ineffective. I think that they sort of thought, we're down a bit here on Durant and Westbrook. We'll throw Harden in, give a bit of spark. He didn't deliver, and they didn't quite know how to adjust to that, and all of a sudden Miami were all over them. They've had a whole year to adjust to playing without Harden.
Yeah, no, it'll be very interesting. I can't wait. We'll keep you updated throughout. SportsFeva, it's time to go. The siren's already gone. We must run off. We've got to sign autographs and everything. Thanks for our guests today, Jacinta Messer and Rupert McCall. Swamp, been a huge week in sport. Thanks for joining us again.
Always a pleasure.
Stand by now for the national news.